Hey everybody, we're here live, coming at you from both coasts of the United States, and we're going to do a little webinar now with Tiago and I. So Tiago, how's it going?
Pretty good, Jeff. Really happy to be here. This has been a long time coming, and I'm excited to get started.
Yeah, same here. I can't wait to share with everybody what we're going to talk about, some of the breakthroughs that we both had in our businesses, and just some of the cool things we're going to talk about in this training, and to get everything going. And just so everybody knows, we are live. We even had some technical difficulties, but I want to know that you're live as well. So send us a note in the chat window. Don't be shy and just let us know who you are and where you're coming from. Wow, I guess you have been sending me stuff. So we have Kenneth, we have Kevin, we have Raphael, we have Kyle, we have Clay, Michael, McCall, we have another Clay. I think it's the same Clay. We have Ren, we have Jeffrey, we have Steve, we have Paul, Steve, Michael. All of you are live and running. Great. Everybody's seeing it. Everybody's coming in. John's in Davie, Florida. I'm in Florida right now too, John. I don't know where Davie is, but I'm on the, let's call it the west part of the Gulf side. Kyle's in Austin, Texas. Michael's in Austin. You guys should be saving bandwidth and doing this together. Austin and Boston, confusing. Paul, I know you're from San Jose. Ming says Tiago, and really long words. Kenneth's in Miami. Christoph is in Austria. We have Hunter in Dallas. Alisa in Moscow. Wow, all the way from Moscow. You get the award for the furthest away from us right now. Steve wants to know, pop quiz, who's in the Final Four? We have Chicago, Loyola Chicago, which I was in Chicago when they hit that shot. It was amazing. The whole place erupted. We have Michigan, we have Villanova, and we have the final one who beat Duke, Kansas. And my win, I want Michigan to win because I have a family member who's a Michigan fan. Drew, welcome. Raphael's from Los Angeles. David, hello. Mike McCall's in Poland. Evans in San Francisco. Sorry, guys, I'm not going to be able to get to all these. Otherwise, the whole webinar is just going to be me talking about where you are and who you're coming from. So we have some training we want to do. And so welcome you all. Jamie from Manchester. Samir's in Philadelphia. Wow, this is awesome. So thanks for joining, everybody. Really appreciate it. Jan's in Slovakia. We have Julia in Mannheim. Okay, awesome. So Tiago, thanks for having this. Thanks for letting everybody know about the goodness that we're going to share today. And I want to give you the floor now. Let's talk about why we want to do this webinar.
Okay, perfect. So I want to give a little bit of context here. It's really cool to see so many familiar names. I mean, from events I've met you at, courses of mine you've taken, blog readers. I mean, it's kind of like from every corner of my life and my business. It's really gratifying to see you all here. And basically, this webinar and what we're going to be presenting today is in response to one of the biggest requests, if not the biggest request that I've received for years, really, but especially the past year, which is, now that I have all these productivity skills and this productivity knowledge, how do I use it to build something? Especially how can I use it to build a business, all the way from, you know, a couple for a side gig to a freelancing career that gives me stability and kind of focus on what I love to do, building the next, you know, billion-dollar tech startup. And when I met Jeff, I realized I've been resisting. So I've been resisting producing a course or a guide or something for how to start a business for months. I'm just like, no, it's not quite right. I'm not quite ready. And I finally realized what it was, which is I don't know how to build a business. Like one real job. I've been doing Forte Labs for 5 years, and really just the past year or two has it gone from really being a freelancing job to something that can be called a business. So I really don't have that experience, right? What I've spent my life doing is like thinking about organization, productivity, learning, things like that. And that's what I'm going to continue to focus on. And Jeff's experience is so perfect for him and for integrating with my audience, because he built one of the fastest growing agencies in the United States that reached the Inc., I think it's called the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies for 5 years in a row. That is just a ridiculous accomplishment. I mean, you're looking at a kind of growth and a trajectory of growth that you usually only see with software, or with tech startups. And to do that for a service business, that's about your knowledge, your skills, is just really. So Jeff and I have spent some time taking each of those courses, looking at where the links are and how they integrate, and found there just to be so many interconnections. You know, once you have a second brain and all these productivity skills, and you're able to move very quickly, capture everything that you learn, store it in a single repository, like a note-taking app on your computer, difficulties in an agency or a service business get at least more manageable, easier. Right? You have like an infrastructure. You have what in the past I've called a cognitive exoskeleton, right? That just like protects you and just like amplifies what you're doing and helps you jump higher, move faster, run faster. It's pretty awesome. So I've asked Jeff to just really share with us, with you, some of his best stuff in an hour. So we're going to like the main presentation within the first hour before 10 a.m. Pacific. But then I want you to know that we're going to stay on. We're going to stay on for a while, maybe half an hour or so, to answer any questions. If you can stay on, that's totally great. And we can also be on email and answer any questions there as well. So I could say a lot more, and I may actually chime in a bit later. In fact, I will. But I want to reserve as much time for you, Jeff, because I know you have a lot of really good stuff to share. So I just ask all of you to you know, take what he has to say, apply it to your own passions, your own interests, your own project. With Jeff's expertise. So thank you for being here, Jeff, and I just really appreciate it, and can't wait to see myself everything you put together.
Awesome. Well, this is going to be great, and I have the presentation pulled up. Let me know in the chat if you can see it. I see some of you are having technical difficulties. Francis, I'm sorry about that, although you probably can't hear me. For anybody who's having problems, I would recommend just closing out your browser and reopening. It does happen from time to time, but it sounds like everybody else is able to get in there. Clay is able to see it. Brad is able to see it. John, okay, so you're able to see it. You can see me. I'm waving to you. We are going to close our camera off so we can just get into the presentation. I don't think that you really need to see us. We'll probably be more of a distraction, and we'll come back on camera towards the end of the presentation to answer any questions you have. Cool. I'm glad you guys can see it. Okay, so this is the presentation that I've titled How to Build a Six-Figure Business Without Trial and Error Guessing. And I want to be clear about something, and that is that building a six-figure business is just one thing, right? It's a number, it's a round number, and round numbers don't really mean much. Sometimes they mean something to us mentally, but the reality is that you can build whatever type of business you want to build as long as you have a real strong understanding of what it takes to do that. So if you see six figures and you think this is some kind of get rich quick thing, don't worry about it. Actually, I want you to achieve your goals, and whether it's less than that or more than that, these principles apply. That's really what it is. But sometimes you need a catchy title just so people can see what's possible. And actually, when I first got started, six figures was my goal. This is around 2005, 2006. I was like, if I can make six figures as a consultant, then I've arrived. It's going to change a lot for me. And part of this presentation is going to tell you that narrative about how my life and how things looked up for me once I discovered these secrets around consulting and how I can sell services and how I can change my financial picture. So as we're getting started, just a few little housekeeping items. Turn off your phone, close out Facebook, go somewhere quiet. Just eliminate your distractions if you can. And don't be afraid to open your mind and ask questions and take notes. And actually, as far as taking notes goes, I have created a little file that you can do. And it's called the 3 Secrets Webinar Workbook. And I'm going to share it with you right now. Hopefully you can see that. It should be something where you can download it and you can do whatever you want to with it. But there you go. Now you have the opportunity to take a look at that workbook. And this will just help you write down the 3 secrets we're going to cover in this webinar. And so getting back into the presentation. Now my goal is to teach you proven methods, and these are proven methods. These are the exact methods that I've used over my entire career that consistently produce long-term business value. This isn't a short-term quick win thing. We want to have long-term value. We want to be sustainable well into the future, and predictable and scalable results. I like predictable and scalable results because it means you're running a good business, and it means that you're comfortable with what's happening, and it it leads to a lot less stress if you can be predictable and scalable with your results. And I want to help you jumpstart your professional service business. So coming into this, I know a lot of you are interested in starting a business, or at least have thought about it. And this presentation is going to give you some of the tips that I wish I would have known right away. Some of these tips took me 3 months to learn. Some of these tips took me 3 years to learn. And I want to jumpstart it for you. I want to make you capable of making these same positive changes I made, but much more quickly. Actually, by the end of this webinar, you should be able to understand how these things work. And before we get started, submit your questions in the chat window. So there's a chat functionality, and I believe there's a question functionality as well. If you push it as a question, that way we can get to it and we can answer them later on. And we will answer all of your questions, every single question. I'm going to say as long as it takes to answer every question you have from the chat window. And we're going to do that by the end of this webinar. By the time I sign off, every single question will be asked. No question left behind. And stick around, because we're going to give you a preview of the Agency Jumpstart program after this training. This is me again. I'm Jeff Sauer. Somebody was dumb enough to name me a top 25 PPC expert. And I would say dumb enough, but that's just me being humble. They actually named me twice. So they're really dumb if they did it twice. Just kidding. I'm a partner in a top 5 or a 5X fastest growing agency in America. We won the Inc. 5000 award 5 years in a row. We went from about $1 million in revenue to about $7 million in revenue over the course of 5 years. Worked out pretty well. During that time, I realized there was not enough talent in the online marketing world. There was not enough people that I could hire for my agency during that growth period. So I went and became an adjunct marketing professor. So I'm going to be teaching in May for basically the entire month of May in Minneapolis, which is where I'm from. And it's going to be at the University of St. Thomas, doing a course called Data-Driven Marketing. It's basically the course that I wish that I would have known about 13 years ago when I started this journey. And it's something that I'm really proud of, the way that program came together. And I'm also an international speaker. So last week at this exact time, I was in Munich, and I was just removed from finishing up my speech on stage at the SMX Munich conference. And so I do a lot of fun stuff, and I love training. Teaching is my passion. If you were to ask me what my passion is, it has become teaching. And it really was something that I didn't plan on doing, but I ended up doing it because there was not enough talent out there who knew how to work in the digital marketing field. So it's my passion, and I want to share it with you today. My agency has worked with many household names. You probably recognize some of these logos. These are things that are maybe in your house right now or your home right now. And we did online marketing for them. So I ran paid search campaigns for Gerber, database marketing, web analytics, SEO. I helped them fix their title tag so that they actually had the word baby food in their title tag. And we got tons of traffic because of that. Little SEO quick wins. So these are clients that I've worked with over the years, and I love these clients. I loved working with them and continue to work with them. And you could say along the way, I've done a lot of things right, a lot of things the right way. That's why I'm here talking to you today, is because I've done a lot of things very well, and my agency has thrived and succeeded in all possible ways, all the ways that I dreamed of. But it wasn't always easy. I did a lot of things the wrong way when I was first getting started. I did a lot of trial and error. And there's probably more error than there was good results when I was first getting started. And here's a few examples of me doing things the hard way. In the first 10 years, the first thing I did is I charged $25 an hour. Now that might sound good or bad, but the reason why it was a bad thing for me is because I didn't take into account business expenses. I just took my salary, divided it by the number of hours that you can work in a year, and I assumed that was the right number. Turns out that if I would have done that full time, I would have lost everything, because I would have made even less money than my salaried position. So I would have started business and actually been somebody who was in business for somebody else. I wouldn't even have been in business for myself, because I was giving money away. I was actually giving work away in order to make no money. One client told me, hey, you're charging 25 right now. You could easily charge $100 an hour. Or I think I was charging 25 to 45 at that time. And I could have made more money. And I think I wrote this in one of the emails to you, that basically I was giving away my services and people were profiting more off of me than I was. That's a shame, right? And it took me years to finally increase my consulting fee. And I don't want you to have to wait years if you're consulting. Now, I don't want you to just go out there and throw out blind numbers that are not based on fact or not based on the market, but I want you to have the confidence, even by the end of this presentation, to know what you're worth and to understand how the numbers work to your advantage. And we are going to get into the numbers. I actually have an Excel spreadsheet, which might be the first time I've ever seen somebody use an Excel spreadsheet on a webinar. And we are going to talk about numbers in just a minute here. So do you want to discover a bulletproof way to build a profitable service-based business, a model that works out really well? We're going to do that. And before we get into it, I want to tell you this. The results are not typical. If we're going to walk through specific case studies of successful agency course students, and they're not typical results because the average person who attends a training gets 0 results because they don't act on it. But I'm happy to show you what's worked for me and for my students for free in this webinar. But remember, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not a work-from-home business opportunity. This is not for amateurs. This is not for people who aren't serious about creating a business. Yes, it's good to have knowledge, but this knowledge, if you don't apply it, doesn't really matter, right? It's like, okay, it's nice to know what Jeff did, but really, I want this thing to be something you can act on for your own business, for your own possible future endeavors, whatever you do in the future. So here's the 3 secrets to building a profitable and 6-figure service-based business. Secret number 1, you need to pick the best revenue model for your service. And this model is one that virtually guarantees cash flow in the long run. And this is where the spreadsheet's going to kick in. Now, this is easy for me to say, like guaranteed cash flow, bulletproof, all that stuff. I want to show you in the numbers. So I'm a numbers guy. My business is called Jeffalytics. Why did I call it that? Because I'm into analytics. I'm an analytical person. I'm a thinker. I think about how these things work, and I need to see the numbers. I don't trust data blindly. I don't trust people's advice blindly because the numbers usually tell you the different answer. Numbers are like, okay, you can't deny this. The numbers are facts, and I love working with facts, and I'm going to show you some facts right in a few minutes here. So what's the key to earning 6 figures as a one-person consultant or 7 figures as an agency? It's your revenue model. It's how you bill your clients and how you make your money. And there's one that wins every single time. And it's not charging hourly. It's not charging by the hour. And I'm going to prove that to you in my spreadsheet. And it's not being paid based on performance. Being paid based on performance is not a good proposition. It doesn't really work very well. And I'll show you why. It's monthly recurring service contracts. It's getting revenue coming in the door every single month, recurring in a contract. Something that somebody is paying you every month. You might call it a retainer. You might call it some kind of repeat billing agreement. Whatever the term you want to give it is, that's what you want. You want monthly recurring revenue. And here's why. Because if you charge by the hour, you're limited by one thing. And this is in huge letters. Time. There's only so many hours in the day. 24 of them. And how many of those are going to be productive? At most, maybe 12, right? Maybe 12 hours are going to be productive over the course of time. And you can only bill clients for the amount of time that you work. You can't just bill people for your R&D time, for everything else you're doing. You can only bill it for time worked. That means that your earning potential becomes capped. Your earning potential is capped because there's only so many hours in the day. Now, it's okay to pay your employees by the hour because you're only paying them for the time that they work. But as a freelancer, a consultant, a service-based business, you need to escape the limits of time and maximize your earning potential. The only way you can really make money, the reason why we talk about an agency business as opposed to just being a freelancer or an individual consultant is because an agency can make more revenues because you are using process, because you are using people and you're scaling things beyond what you can do on your own over the course of a 24-hour day or a 40-hour work week, or if you're crazy like me, sometimes it's a 60-hour work week. And then, on the other hand, if you make money through a pay for performance scheme, you risk working without getting paid. You never know if the project's going to succeed or if you're going to get paid. You take all the risk up front and you might not even see a reward. So when I say pay per performance, this is what happens to me all the time, especially with startups. I don't like working with startups. And the reason why is because they say, hey, how about you do all this work for me right now? And if it works, I will pay you. But if it doesn't work, you don't get paid. I'm only going to pay you if you're effective. But what they don't take into account is that I have to do the work now and I might get paid in the future. Well, my employees still want to get paid. My contractors want to get paid. Everybody wants to get paid still. And so I'm taking on all the risk. And the reward is variable, undetermined, and off in the future. People want to get paid every 2 weeks on time, right? They don't want to get paid whenever I get paid. They can't pay their mortgage with that. They can't feed their family with that. And so it doesn't really work out very well. And so pure pay for performance does not work well at all because that's shifting it too much into the future. versus being paid by the hour, it limits your ability to make money. And you can get burned, and it happens all the time. I've seen a lot of people get burned by pay for performance contracts, and we don't do them. Don't do them at all. So why do I like recurring revenue monthly service contracts? Here's why. Because you can lock in a steady amount of cash flow every single month, and it's guaranteed. And here's why it's guaranteed. Because you can build relationships that last decades, and you can charge based on the value that you deliver. And it's easy for me to say this, but I want to show you exactly why it works so well. So I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet, my trusty spreadsheet here. You're going to notice this. And actually, that's my second download. So while I'm pulling it up, I'm also going to make it available for you to download. So if we go in here, just make sure that I'm doing this right. I'm going to stop sharing the webinar workbook. Hopefully you downloaded that. And this is the best revenue model spreadsheet. I'm going to share it with you right now. And then I'm going to switch my screen over to showing you the spreadsheet. Now, this is something that's yours now. Download it, play around with it, do whatever you want to, but I'm going to show you live here how it can work. And so let's talk about a typical person who's a freelancer. So if you want to target having this much cash in your pocket at the end of the year, let's call it $100,000. That is the bare minimum for a six-figure business. Here's how your business needs to work. If you want to, and then everything in here in the green is variable. So if you want to target $100,000, this is a variable. You notice we have the numbers up in here. And say that you're saying 50 hours a week or 50 weeks in a year, and you want to work 40 hours a week. But of that time, you're going to be billable. You're going to be able to bill your clients for 75% of that time. And then we have these business overhead numbers and per employee overhead if you were to have employees. Now, in this case, since it's a freelancer or a one-person business, the employee is just you. It's basically the overhead you have for yourself. Now, I have another calculator, which we talk about in our agency Jumpstart program. That's for an entire business. And in that case, for the entire business, it has a little bit different method. Basically, there's more variable overhead per employees. So if you want that, send me an email, support@agencycourse.com, and I will send that out to you right away. Okay. And so if we look at this thing, we have our billable percentage. If we go here, now, if I want to say that I only want to work half time, this is something that might be your dream. I only want to work half time. Well, if you want to work 50% of the time, here's what you need to do. You basically, of the 2,000 available working hours in a year, you need to work 1,000 of them, and you need to bill at $130 an hour in order to reach your income goal. Okay, that sounds fine. I work half the time, and I'm making $130 an hour. I got my $100,000. I'm good to go. Or you could say of the weeks in a year, you only want to work 25 weeks in a year. And during that time, you're going to work 60 hours a week, and you're going to be 75% billable. This is the digital nomad dream job, right? Where you're working hard and you're playing hard. Well, now you need to charge $116 an hour, and you can work half the year and reach your goals. Now, these are extremes, obviously, and I would encourage you to put in your own numbers and to play around with it and to see what you can get here. But that's how we get at the point where we can determine what we need to charge in order to reach our goal. So if six figures is your goal, then, and you want to work half time, you want to work really hard during that half time, then here's what you need to do. Of course, there's other things you need to factor in. In order to demand $116 an hour, you need to have some kind of skill that's marketable. And when I say skill, you need to be at the top of your game. And marketable means that there needs to be a market for what you have. And the market for what you have is both macro, meaning like the entire workplace needs you, like people need analysts, people need PPC managers, people need web designers, people need graphic designers, video editors, whatever that ends up being. There needs to be that type of macro market. But then there needs to be your individual market, which means that people actually know who you are and they want to work with you. Ultimately, the amount of money you can charge is a supply and demand piece. It's a microeconomic factor. It's how much supply there is in the marketplace and then how much demand there is for you. And that's where you get at this number. So it's easy for me to put these into a spreadsheet and say, yeah, just charge $116 an hour and then you're making $100,000 a year. But the reality is that's an empty thing for me to say. And that's why I don't say it. You actually need to do all the work. You need to be really good at what you do in order to get to that point. But the numbers don't lie. This is a path to making six figures. Okay, and you can hustle it, you can work hard, you can do 50 hours a week, you can be 100% billable, which I would never recommend, but you can say 90% billable, and then, you can make it at $48 an hour. There are ways around this. There are ways to get to your goals and to do these things. And so keep that in mind. Now, as you notice here, there's other tabs. I'm going to go into those. There's project-based consulting. So say that you want to make $100,000 in cash on project-based consulting, and every time you sell a contract, it's worth $25,000. Now that's a good amount of money. Let's change that. Let's say it's worth $10,000. You can see here that if you want to sell $10,000 projects at a time, maybe it's some kind of one-off thing that you do, like a consulting or a strategy project, whatever it is, you need to have 13 different clients paying you $10,000 to reach your income goals. And okay, that's fine. So you're spreading it out across 13 clients. You might have one big anchor client who pays for half of it, and then you have other ones that pay you smaller. But ultimately, this is how you factor in how you can do this on a project basis. And the numbers don't lie either. And I like this business model in some ways. After I did pure hourly consulting, I did go into project consulting for a while, but then I discovered a model that I think works much better than both of these. And so I don't want to dwell on project-based consulting because I think monthly-based retainers is the right way to do even project-based consulting. So instead of having to do 13 clients in order to reach my $100,000 goal, what we can do is we can do a monthly retainer, and we can say, instead of charging $10,000 one time, maybe we set our retainer for $4,000 a month. Now, $4,000 a month is not a trivial amount of money. When I first got started, I dreamed of charging $4,000 a month. More realistically, it was probably like $2,000 a month. 500, you could even do 500. I mean, there's all kinds of different numbers you could charge. But when you do a monthly retainer, something happens psychologically with a person you're working with. And that is, they think of it as $2,000 a month. They don't think of it as $24,000 a year. But when you're banking the revenue yourself, $2,000 a month becomes $24,000 in a year. So it doesn't sound like much up front, or maybe it does to you. I'm not sure where you're at in your journey. 2,000 might sound tremendously high, but to me, 2,000 seems somewhat reasonable for a business to pay, especially since I've been working with large businesses. But businesses can afford that amount of money, and they might not even blink at it. And if you can get enough businesses to trust you and pay you that, let's call it $24,000 a year, you just need 6 of them, and you've reached your income goal. Not only have you reached your income goal, but you're doing it pretty steadily. And so that's how the math works on this monthly retainer. Now, when we get into year number 2, it gets even better. And that is that if you're doing hourly consulting, in year number 2, you need to start over again, and you need to earn that money all over. Same with project consulting. If you're doing a one-off project, you need to get the same number of clients next year. You need to get 13 clients in order to keep on working. But if you have a monthly retainer and you retain that client into year 2 because you do a good job, and it is reasonable to expect that. I have clients that have been on retainer with my business for over 10 years. And that revenue just keeps on coming in like clockwork every single year. It's a lot less stressful when you know that you only need 6 clients and 5 of them have already been booked for the next year. That's how well this revenue model works. It takes away a lot of the stress in the business. It doesn't make it entirely stressless, of course. Performing services for other people does involve some stress, but it takes the stress out of the hardest part of managing your business, and that is knowing where the revenue is coming from. And so this is why I love this model so much. It really is a revelation for me. It took me about, somewhere between a year and 3 years to really fully move on to this model. It's the model that's employed at my company, my Inc. 5000 fastest growing agency. And it's a model that I really think works well. Now, the other thing to say about this, and then I'm going to move on to the next secret, is that sometimes you'll find that you actually can make a bunch of profit by doing hourly consulting or project consulting once you've reached your goal here. So for example, if I have already signed 6 clients and I know that work spread out evenly throughout the year, if I do a $10,000 project or a $20,000 one-off project, that goes directly to my bottom line. And so my goal might have been to make 100,000. Well, my retainers, 6 of them, only 6 relationships have gotten me there. But if I do a $20,000 project, that just goes right into my pocket, or it goes into something where I can invest it into my business and maybe hire other people or invest it for future endeavors, invest it in marketing, invest it in whatever. And so that's why this works so well, is because this is the majority of things. This is how you budget for the year. This is how you know if you can handle hiring an employee or hiring contractors. Everything comes down to not only where the revenue is coming in this year, but where's the revenue coming in the future. And then once you have that confidence, you can start to make decisions that allow you to make profits. And that's how this all comes together. So hopefully you enjoyed that part. I'm going to answer some questions. I'll answer all the questions you have in the chat about this as we go along, but I want you to understand that this works. And so I see some questions are coming in, and hopefully you guys are all interested in, or hopefully the questions come through and we'll answer them as we go along. So I'm going to go back to the presentation, and we're going to share secret number 2. Secret number 2 is all about how to ethically price your services based on value. And we're going to use something called the Sauer reframe technique that virtually guarantees fat profit margins. Now, I can't take all the credit for this technique, but we thought it would be funny to use that as the way that we call it. So let's talk about getting stuck in the commodity trap. According to SEO Moz, about the average SEO consultant charges somewhere between $750 to $1,250 per month for SEO. Now, if you're that business that charges the average amount and you have 5 accounts that you work on per month, that brings you $3,750 in total revenue. And if you have your labor set up where it's 60 hours of total labor, meaning people that you've outsourced this to, people you've worked with, and they put 12 hours into an account, that means that out of the $3,750 in revenue you have, you would need to outsource $2,400 in labor expenses at $40 an hour. And at the end of it, you have 5 clients, you're maintaining 5 relationships, and you get $1,350 in net profit. And that's before you have your other expenses, before you pay yourself, before you pay for all your other activities. And that's not great, right? That's a lot of work, 5 clients, 5 relationships in order to even net barely anything, right? That's not something that's going to get you to $100,000. And so this is tough because you're charging a very little amount of money and you need to get a lot of clients in order to make the point where you get to profit. So I conclude from that pricing like a commodity is not worth the effort. So how do you get out of the commodity trap? How do you get out of that trap? You reframe what you sell. Let's talk about this, the Sauer reframe technique. SEO consultants don't sell rankings. They develop intellectual property and they turn it into perpetual lead generation assets by increasing the traffic from search engines. Perpetual lead generation. I want that. I want leads coming in the door. How about you? Definitely. So you reframe what you sell. Here's a way to do it. Show your client the value that you will provide them and do the math for them. Ask potential clients their lifetime customer value for each new lead. And then connect that lifetime value to the number of potential clients and leads that they're going to generate from your service. So here's an example, and this is using really broad numbers as a calculation. Say that each customer is worth $500 during the lifetime of your client's business. So the lifetime value is $500. And say that your effort is to generate 500 new customers over the next 12 months. Now that sounds like a lot, but if you do the math, you divide it by 12, we're talking about somewhere around 45 leads or sales that you need to generate a month, which might be reasonable for your business. Let's just use this as our number. And so you basically say, I'm providing $250,000 in potential revenue to your client. 500 times 500 equals $250,000. That's nothing trivial. So how much do you think that $250,000 in new business is worth for your clients? Well, I know this. I've been in the marketing world for a long time, and it's somewhere around $20,000 to $25,000. And this is based on an 8 to 10% marketing cost. Most companies want to keep their marketing cost at around 8 to 10%. And it does vary by industry. Some industries are saying 4% marketing cost. Some say 20 to 30 to 40% marketing cost. It really depends on their margins and how competitive their industry is. But if you want the average, and this is the one that I'm most comfortable sharing, then that's where you're looking at, is $20,000 to $25,000. So if you were charging $750 a month, guess what? You basically gave away a service that you could have easily charged $2,000 a month to deliver based on the results. And as they make more money, you could get away with even charging more because of the marketing cost that is associated with it. So that's how you can use the math, and you can use basically taking what they tell you that they want and what they think you can do, and you can use that to price based on value. In this particular case, you can earn 3 times as much for doing the same amount of work based on the value you provide. And when you have 3 times as much results, 3 times as much resources to work with, your results sort of turn into this perpetual machine where you get even better results, right? Because you're investing more in it. You're getting profits. You can invest in your business. And so it really does work out well. So here's a case study of one of my students from agency course who shifted to value-based pricing. His name is Siddharth, or Sid, and Sid quintupled his fee. Now, this is an email he sent out. So he sent it on December 12th of last year, excuse me. This is unsolicited. I didn't say, hey, Sid, send me an email about what's going on. He just said, hey, I've been in your agency course for 3 weeks, and he used the ideas from our business development module to identify his niche. He hustled for meetings with key decision makers, and he eventually gave a value-driven proposal to a prospect. Now, it took him a lot of work. He did the work. I can't take too much credit for Sid because he did the hustling. He went and got in front of them. He had 3 face-to-face meetings. He had a long call, but he did sign a contract worth 5 times as much as what he used to charge, plus a setup fee. He didn't used to charge a setup fee. So it's more than 5 times what he used to charge because he's getting paid for the setup as well. And Sid's successful. He knows what he's doing, but he didn't really understand that he was worth what he was worth until he talked to other business owners, until he started looking at these things and he started reframing the way that he looks at his business. And he says, hey, I'm one of those people. I was successful before. I was getting by at least. Now I know that I'm worth more and people want this. They're in demand. And so he manages his PPC agency in Dubai and he's getting much better results. Sid and I have become friends since this because Sid has awesome results and he really likes to share all the good things that are happening. But remember, it's all about him. He's the hustler. He's the one who worked really hard to do this thing. He just needed a little push to say, you're good enough, Sid. You are worth it. You are worth this. Secret number 3, always have more deals in your pipeline and be prepared to walk away from a big deal or bad deal, excuse me. So there's 2 laws I want to talk about. The first one is the law of desperation. The more you need something, the less likely it is that you're going to get it. So if you're desperately in need of sales to keep your business going, it's going to be hard. People are going to sense it. It's the opposite of the law of attraction. When all your hope for survival rests on 1 or 2 deals, the probability of failure increases exponentially. Prospective customers can sense your desperation and they find it to be a turnoff. It is. Just like in the dating world, desperation is a turnoff. Prospects want to do business with confident, competent, and successful people. On the other hand, here's how you get confidence, the pipeline rule. You must constantly be pushing new opportunities into your pipeline. You always have to do new opportunities, always have them coming in. Because new opportunities, they replace those that lose momentum. Just because somebody says they're interested in working with you doesn't mean that you're going to close a deal. In fact, probably at most 10% of the leads that come in through your website or through LinkedIn are going to turn into anything or something that you want. Now, you might pride yourself on closing all the deals you get, but generally speaking, not all the deals that come into your window are worth paying attention to. So you need new opportunities to replace those that have lost momentum. And a strong pipeline gives you the confidence to say no to bad opportunities. So here's another case study. This is our final case study. Being prepared to walk away even when you don't want to. So here's Mark. Mark's in the UK. Mark has a retainer client. It's his anchor client. This is what we call it in agency jumpstart, is an anchor client, somebody who's paying a good amount of money to your business, but not taking up all your time. And then you can use your extra time to go out there and build the rest of your business, to fill in the blanks of your business. And Mark was finding himself in his retainer where he was doing a lot of work for them. And over time, they kept on saying, hey, Mark, I really like what you're doing. Can you add this service to us? Can you do, instead of just web design, can you add PPC? Instead of add just PPC, can you add analytics? And he's like, sure, I like to do these things. I want to learn more. But they weren't paying him for the extra efforts. And eventually it took up all of his time and the expectations. And he was afraid to ask for a raise because it was his anchor client. If he lost them, then he'd have to start over at 0 or go get a job. And so Mark and I worked together. I coached him through it. Basically, we went through all the scenarios, talked about how to frame it up, and basically say, hey, when you first signed the contract with me, you had me doing web design. Now I'm doing web design, PPC, and analytics. Here's what the market rates are for these services. And I would love to continue doing these for you, but we need to adjust in order to get into market rate, or we can just go back to our original agreement and keep the price the same. And sure enough, they're like, we want these new things. We got a taste of it. We want it. And he got 9,000 more per year. And that's in pounds, which is even like 15,000 US dollars at this point. So pretty cool. Really, Mark has been a great student as well. And I like seeing people succeed. I like seeing them do the work. And I like giving them advice that I wish I would have had when I first started doing this back in 2005, because I had a lot of struggles. I had a lot of questions about what I was doing and the right way to do it. So filling your pipeline helps you choose only to have the best clients. And you can say no because you know that you have the revenue coming in. You can be very selective. You can say, I only close 10% of the leads that come in, and you can wear it as a sense of pride. Because honestly, closing only 10% of your leads is the most prideful thing you can do, because that means that you're getting rid of the 90% that aren't worth your time, your effort, or can't afford to pay you. So those are the 3 secrets of succeeding in professional services. Hopefully you enjoyed those. I see a lot of questions coming in. and I want to answer them as we get through it. Following these three secrets are keys to building a profitable service-based business. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you ready to grow your business? Now, I know that a lot of you are at different points in your business. A lot of you are just getting started. Some of you are just thinking about it. Some of you actually already have a business. Are you ready to grow it to the business that you want it to be? Are you ready to turn pro, not doing that amateur stuff? Here's a guy you probably recognize, household name, Stephen Curry. So Steph Curry made the leap in his shooting in about the 2013, 2014 season. I think it was 2014, 2015 that they won the championship and he became the MVP. Now, everybody gives Steph credit for making the leap, but did you know that he has a coach that teaches him how to shoot every single day after practice? The guy's name is Bruce Frazier, former Arizona Wildcat, which is my favorite basketball team. And Bruce teaches him how to shoot, and he holds Steph accountable every single day after practice. Every single day of the year, Steph is shooting baskets to get better. And he started that after the 2013-2014 season. So basically in the summer, every day he started shooting, and then he made the leap, became the best basketball player in the world, or my favorite at least. Pretty cool, right? He had a coach to get him there. LeBron James spends $1.5 million a year just on his body, on nutrition, on personal trainers, on people working him out. And he also is the second most recognizable athlete in the world behind Cristiano Ronaldo. And guess what? He makes $70 million a year, both from playing basketball and from endorsements. He realizes that he needs to reinvest a lot of that money into his body because that's the thing that keeps things going. Him being good at basketball opens up all the opportunities. Just listening to a podcast earlier today from Kevin Durant talking about the same thing. He's like, basically, I am a basketball player first and foremost. If you ever listen to the Bill Simmons podcast, Kevin Durant was on that one. It's really good. So check that out. Anyways, so LeBron spends about 1% to 2% of his income on his body. And actually, that's a pretty good number that I would recommend that anybody spends on coaching and on specialists to improve your business. If you're looking at making a $100,000 business, you should spend probably $2,000 a year on your own education or whatever your currency is. If it's euros, if it's pounds, whatever it is, you should spend about 2% on your own education, getting better at being a business owner. Here's another guy. Now, lately, Mark Zuckerberg hasn't really gotten a lot of good press. So this is maybe not the best example at the moment, but thinking about to the early days of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, everybody gives him credit for being a genius and doing what he did, and he deserves it, and he's worth a lot of money. But he also had all of his coaches helping him there. So the guy on the left is a guy named Mark Andreessen, famous Silicon Valley investor, inventor of the Netscape browser, and the guy who coached Zuckerberg through his negotiations so he could retain more control of his business and so he could be the one who is what he is today, for better or worse, really, with the latest press about him. So these guys all have coaches. Then there's this guy. This guy's name is Mike Payton. He wrote a book called Get a Grip, and he was the coach for my agency. We paid him $6,000 a day. We went to his office in Bloomington, Minnesota, and we would sit there and we would talk about how to improve our business, how to improve our business model, how to improve our efficiency, our process, everything about our business. And we did this. We paid him $6,000 a day because by the time we got to $6 million in revenue, we were starting to burst at the seams. We had, all these people we needed to work with. We had 50 employees. We had all these different directions we could take our business, and we needed to hire a coach to get us going. And it became a pretty great investment. Now, it was a decent percentage of our revenue, of course, but it was the right investment for us at that point in time because it helped us get back on track, helped us fix a lot of things and get clarity in our business. And so we waited a long time to get a coach. I wish we'd have started earlier. And when we waited, we paid him about $50,000 a year for the 8 sessions that we went to his office. So even business owners have coaches, and these people exist. Coaches are out there. But not everybody can afford $6,000 a day. I can't even afford that right now, right? And so I created something called Agency Jumpstart, which gives you an affordable blueprint to building a better business. So what if you had an agency blueprint that showed you how to discover a lucrative niche using a profit-first approach? Would you be interested in that? What if you could pick the best revenue model for your services and have stable income and cash flow? I just showed you how that revenue model works. What if you had a guide teaching you the best way to sell those contracts? What if you could systemize how to get leads without cold calling, and you could sell your services without hard selling? I've never made a cold call in my life, and I've generated millions of dollars in revenue selling professional services because I have a system. What if you could hire subcontractors or employees the right way so they can help you expand your business when you have too much work? Instead of looking at it as something where, oh, I'm hiring people and I'm making it an expense, what if that leads to all the good things in your business? What if that extends your business culture? What if hiring people is the right way to go and it's the way to help you reach your income goals? What if you could implement proven management processes into your business so you can scale without spinning your wheels? Trust me, this is where I had to pay $6,000 a day because we waited too long on it. I'm going to give you the best answers as to how I'm showing you the best way to do this based on what I learned from our consultants and based what I've learned from turning things around where we are bursting at the seams to making it a more comfortable and sustainable business. What if you could plan to gracefully exit your agency business one day in the future? That'd be pretty cool too, right? Would you be interested in that? Of course you would. So if your goal is to become a highly paid, respected, and influential consultant or an agency business, then Agency Jumpstart was built specifically for you. So what's inside of Agency Jumpstart? First of all, we have a course called Agency Fundamentals. We talk about accounting statements. We actually start at the beginning with the boring stuff, with the numbers, because I think it's so important to helping you understand how business works. So if you don't do the numbers stuff, if you don't do the financial statements, then it's really hard to expand your business because you'll always be frustrated with where things are going. You might not have cash flow. You might not recognize why you need to do the things you need to do in business. We're going to share with you the revenue model that virtually guarantees protecting revenue and clients that keep on coming back year after year. And actually, we've shared that with you in this webinar today. You have that one. You understand it. But we go in even more depth inside of Agency Jumpstart. Tell you how to pick the right service to provide your clients using a 12-point downloadable service niche checklist. So we have service niches and client niches, and we use those in order to determine what market you should go after. Course number 2, business development, the 10% rule and why it's non-negotiable. Why client budget cycles are more influential than any sales efforts you execute, and why I recommend staying away from big companies from companies that don't have a defined budget cycle. And we'll even tell you about bad clients. How do you check them off to say if they're bad or not? And how do you get rid of them? How do you do the 80-20, getting rid of the pain in your rear end from clients you don't like? I'm not afraid to fire clients, and I hope you're not either. Course number 3, grow your business. The 9 critical questions you should ask your clients during the onboarding process. We have an entire onboarding checklist and framework you can use to onboard new clients. The biggest mistake agencies make when they're scaling their business, 10 factors to consider when you're hiring an employee or a subcontractor. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at hiring employees and subcontractors, and I share with you exactly why inside of Agency Jumpstart and how you can build an employee-centric marketing culture so you can leverage the multiplier effect. Course 4, long-term planning. We give you the best agency management KPIs and frameworks for it. Agency org chart templates. This is one of the byproducts of my $6,000 a day with Mike Payton. We gave us org chart templates that we can use to fill in the blanks with our business. And I'm giving them to you as part of the Agency Jumpstart program. And a list of potential buyers for your agencies. Success stories from people who have even exited for 9-figure agency exits. And finally, course number 5, temptations to avoid. All the things that you shouldn't do that I might have done in my career, the things that I learned from learning from mistakes and learning from the mistakes of others. We're going to go through a lot, tell you the things that you could do wrong so you don't do them, giving you cautionary tales. Now, here's an overview of what Agency Jumpstart has. Each one of these courses, if we price them separately, sells for $497. And so you add it up, the value is $2,485. Now, let's put that into perspective. You could get an MBA and pay $100,000 and go to a top business school and be in debt for years learning it from an MBA. You could go to the school of hard knocks like I did and pay $0 for the education, but then end up paying somebody like Mike Payton $6,000 a day to help you fix it when you didn't know what you didn't know. Or you can look at something that's somewhere in between school of hard knocks and paying somebody like a consultant. So I mentioned Mike Payton costs $6,000 a day. Well, obviously the agency course doesn't cost $6,000. Last year I sold agency course for $1,997. And today I'm not going to sell it for that either because I want to make it so that it's as easy as possible to get into this program. And so I've created 3 packages selling my agency jumpstart course that you can start with today if you want to learn how to grow and scale your professional service business. So let's talk about what's in these packages. First of all, we have what we call a starting agency business. Now this gives you my core agency jumpstart course. We give you 20 plus workbooks and frameworks, things you can download, checklists, items to keep you on track as you go with your business. A private forum only for business owners. It's not something that's public at all, only private. Questions can be asked there, and a private Facebook group where you can ask any question you want to from fellow business owners like you. And you can do it all for $997 in one payment. Or if you want to, there's a 4-payment option where it's $299 a month for 4 months. And then after that, you have lifetime access to the course. Both of these packages, all these packages have lifetime access to my agency jumpstart course. The middle package, which is the best value, not only do you get everything I just described, but you also get the Sales Jumpstart course, which is a course that I created purely focusing on how to generate sales for your business, how to get your pipeline full, how do you use your pipeline in order to predict the rest of the revenues for your business, and how do you get rid of a lot of the stress that comes with having 1 or 2 clients taking up the majority of your revenue? How do you get better at that? That one is $1,297 if you pay once, and 4-pay is $399. And finally, we have the Building an Elite Agency. And this is for those of you who have not bought Building a Second Brain yet. You get everything from my courses, my agency course and my Sales Jumpstart course, plus you get Building a Second Brain all in one package. And that goes for $1,597 or $499 if you want to make 4 monthly payments. And I'm going to give you this URL now, and I'm going to make it sure so that it's present for you, but it's agencycourse.com/BASB. So let me pop up the offer right now. So in case you don't want to click it in, we're going to put it out there. And so now you can click on the Learn More link there. And just so you know, this course is only available, the offer that we're going to give you on this webinar today is only available until this Friday. Okay, so that's how the packages work. But you're probably wondering, is this right for you? And that's why we understand that. We're understanding, why would you pay, do you want to pay $1,000 for something? Are you sure you're going to get it right? Well, it gets better than that. And I'm going to turn it over to Tiago here, and he's going to help me show you what we're going to do exclusively for the Building a Second Brain audience and the people on this webinar. But first, I'm going to show you what we have. We have these mind maps that we've created that tell you how to go through your business. So this is an example of business development. How do you go and do business development without cold calling? How do you have a great sales pipeline? Well, you need to understand your prospective client. You need to meet their needs. We have these mind maps. They're very extensive, and we're going to give them to you as a part of signing up for the Agency Jumpstart course. So not only do we have all the core materials, which is 12 plus hours of videos and content and downloads that you can use to build your business, but we're actually going to walk you through how do you summarize everything you've learned and use it on a day-to-day basis. And that's what I want to have Tiago talk to you about right now.
Great. Cool. Okay, so that was fantastic. Really, really neat. And just a little bit of background here. Oops, sorry. Just a little bit of background here. For those of you, many of you have been following me for some time, been around 5 years or so, and I've never done a webinar before. This is the first one I've ever done. And that was because if I ever did a webinar, I thought I wanted it to be such a ridiculous amount of value. I mean, really just such an overwhelmingly good offer that we were making that it would just be a no-brainer. That actually even just this presentation, this 1 hour kind of introduction would provide value. And based on the packages that you just saw, I really believe we've done that. I mean, I really believe we've put together 2 of the best courses out there. Mine on learning and productivity and knowledge management, Jeff's on building and scaling a business. But we wanted to even go beyond just putting them together to actually building a bridge between them, actually making it seamless to go from one to the other. So for only those of you attending today, this is exclusive to today. I'm offering essentially my personal notes on each of the modules in Agency Jumpstart. If you've taken Building a Second Brain, or when you take it, you'll know that I teach kind of this idea that notes are a lens. A person's notes are a particular perspective on a piece of content, such as this course. So what I'm going to be giving you is kind of this compressed packet of information, which is these mind maps that we've created, plus my own notes, connecting it to different parts of what I do for each of the modules in the course. And this really solves this issue where, you know, you might take this course beginning to end, but you don't know when you're going to need the knowledge in Agency Jumpstart. You don't know if it's going to be next week, next month, next year, and several years. And there's no way a year from now, or even, you know, a few months from now, you're going to go back and take the whole course beginning to end. So instead of having these kind of scattered notes as this like dense jungle of information with just insights here and there, you're going to be able to use my notes and these mind maps to kind of go right to the point where you define the thing that you need. And also for your own notes, if you decide to create those, you'll be able to use what you've just learned in building a second brain to make them discoverable, which is exactly what my course is about. So I'll really be highlighting what I think are the most important concepts and insights in this course, optimized for discoverability and context.
That's great. That's exactly what we need, right? Is to make it even more actionable and make it so you can continue on the path. And so that, yeah, like you said, nobody's going to go back and watch everything cover to cover. You will go back and revisit things, no doubt. But if you have a note system, if you have Tiago's system, then it just becomes so much easier, really.
Absolutely. Should we move to bonus number 2?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so there's even more. I told you it was a ridiculous package we put together. So I want to show, I'm really into case studies and examples, as you'll see in Building a Second Brain. And really, there's so much more behind the scenes. I know this is true of Jeff and it's true of me. It's like we put into our courses really kind of, I know this may be hard to believe, but like the minimum, like the basics. And there's so much more to share. So we're going to offer a masterclass. We're going to offer this 90-minute live, one-time basically workshop with both Jeff and I, where we're going to show you kind of some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that we use these skills for. And in particular for me, what I'm going to be showing you is business development. Okay, and this is something I've never talked about, never done a case study on it because it's a little bit customized, which is why I want to do it live. Basically, you know, how do you take efficient call notes talking to prospects so that the next time you talk to them, whenever that is, you can quickly recall the key points, not spend all this time like reviewing your call logs just for a prospect you don't even know is going to lead anywhere. I'm going to go over how I write proposals. I just did a proposal last week for $20,000 and it took me 15 minutes. And I just thought back to, you know, the early proposals where it would take me a whole day, you know, plus several days of just worrying and procrastinating to put together a proposal. And even if the proposal is successful, that's already, you know, several days in the hole. It's not scalable. It doesn't work to make the proposal writing so difficult. So we're going to look at how to use PKM, para, progressive summarization, everything you learn in my course to, you know, drastically reduce your proposal creation. And just in general, I'll show you a bunch of other kind of smaller examples of how to use para to just make your business development process actually not just efficient and scalable, but like creative and dynamic and adaptable, because you're not starting from scratch each time. You are pulling together bits and pieces of past projects and past proposals, which actually can become its own sort of creative process that I've kind of come to enjoy. So, I mean, this is really covering the range from effectiveness and efficiency all the way to creativity and adaptability, which is why I think these two courses are such a great match. And I think Jeff wants to share with you one more thing in case you're kind of on the fence about enrolling in this course today.
Yeah, I love that, Tiago. That's a perfect bridge, right? Because you and I think, have complementary skills, like different skills, different experiences. But then if we can bridge them to each other and to our audiences, then we all win. And actually, a lot of things you're talking about, I think, will make every one of us, even myself, much more effective at what we do. But there's more. There's more to share. First of all, the agency course comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you join today, and you complete the agency jumpstart course. Now you need to complete the course. You need to go through all the work. You need to do everything, watch the video lessons, complete the worksheets. If you don't think that it's valuable after doing all the work on your business, we will happily give you a refund. And it's a 60-day money-back guarantee. So you have a long time to go through this and to figure it out if this is going to work for your business and to figure out your business, really. And if it doesn't work out for you after doing all the work, we do come with a money-back guarantee. So here's the URL if you wanted to get started, if you wanted to look at it. And while you're thinking about it, I wanted to share a few more things with you. Here's what you're going to get inside of the Agency Jumpstart course. 20 plus hours of content, a private Facebook group, and forum access. Bonus number 1, the agency mind maps and Tiago's Cliff Notes, which we just talked about. 90-minute live agency course plus building a second brain, all around business development. How you can take Tiago's struggle of writing a proposal for days, stressing for days, writing a day, taking a day to do it, and turn it into 15 minutes for 20 grand. That's a lot of money. That's amazing. And it's all in these packages. So as you can see here, I've added the bonus packages on here, the agency mind maps, and you can see which one of you gets it. Now, if you add the value, the first package is worth $22,982 if you add it all up. The growing revenue agency is $3,776, and the building an elite agency, $4,173. But today's prices are $997, $1,297, and $1,597. And I really think this is a bargain, especially compared to how much money you can make and how much money you can save by not doing things the wrong way. This is really a very small piece of the expenses you put into a business. And it's within that sweet spot I was talking about of 2% of your business revenues going back and reinvesting in making your business better. You can pick from 2 easy payment options. You save by paying in full, and we do have that 60-day money-back guarantee. So if all this program did was finally make your service-based business profitable, would it be worth it for you? If all we did was give you the push to finally grow your business from a one-person show to a full-fledged agency, do you think it would be worth it? What if we could save your service-based business years of common mistakes, time, and energy? Would it be worth it then? This one comes from the heart because I spent a lot of time making mistakes, and I'm trying to prevent you from making the same mistakes. Now, you might make some mistakes along the way, but at least you now have a guide, somebody who's been there, done that, who can show you the ropes, who can show you where things are going and to give you an evidence-based reason as to why you might want to take a different direction. Remember, I'm an analytics guy. I focus purely on the analytics, on the numbers as to why these are good decisions, why we should make these investments, and how do we make our business the best business in the long term. Oh, crap, I almost forgot about something. There's a third bonus, and this is for the fast actors. This is for the people that are on this webinar right now. The first 5 of you who sign up for the growing and elite agency packages, either one of those, you and I are going to get on the phone. Actually, it's a video call. It'll probably be a Zoom call. We're going to get on there. We're going to talk about your business, and we are going to answer any questions you have. We're going to record it. We're going to transcribe it, and I'm going to send you that video in the text file, and it's yours forever. Even if you go through the process and you do the 60-day money-back guarantee and you don't find value in the course, that's yours to keep forever. That's limited to the first 5 of you. That's the fast actors. So if you're not sure about this yet, you definitely want to go and check this out. Sign up at agencycourse.com/BASB. Time is your most precious asset. You can't get more of time. People think that money is the most precious asset that's out there. That's not true. Money is something that you can replenish. There's money being printed all the time. Time is something you can never get back. Time is not on our side. And so you could either spend several years going through and struggling, trying to figure these things out on your own, trying to figure out if you want to start a business, if you want to scale a business, or you can learn from the mistakes that I made and get that time back, time that you can focus on growing your business. And your success starts with the actions you take. Signing up for the course today is taking an action. It's a positive action for your business. And finally, one more thing. And this is going to make it an absolute no-brainer to sign up for the Agency Jumpstart course. If you sign up today, tomorrow, or by Friday at midnight, we're going to give you 60 days of unlimited agency consulting. This is my first time offering this. And it might be the only time. I might go a little bit crazy with this, but any question you have over the next 60 days, or whenever you choose to start the 60-day unlimited consulting process, you can sign up. There'll be a web form you fill out, give us your questions, and I will answer it as soon as I possibly can, usually within 24 to 48 hours. Send it to you via email. Sometimes I'll send you a video just explaining a concept if that's more efficient. And that's really valuable. We're valuing it at $997. And actually, this is not something that I'm selling as a product on the open market. It's something that is just only for people on this webinar right now, because I want to make sure that you get started in the right way. If you're looking to start a business, yes, we're going to have the videos for you, 20 plus hours of videos. We're going to be having you watch these videos, learning about your business, but there's going to be questions that are very unique to you. And so we are offering you unlimited consulting via email, or I'm going to answer your questions via email. Never offered it before, and it's going away by Friday night. And so if you want to get some time with me, if you want to work on your business, you absolutely want to get started with this right here. So to recap the packages, we've expanded, we've added our bonuses in there. Those ones will be going away. Once we hit 5 purchasers, I think we've already hit it on the webinar today. Once we hit it, then we're going to take that package away. So if you want to get in and you want to talk to me, you better act fast. Total value, almost $4,000 for the starting your agency package, almost $5,000 for growing revenues, and $5,417 for building an elite agency. But today, $997, $1,297, and $1,597. We want to make this a no-brainer. The price of unlimited consulting alone is the value that you're going to be paying in the lowest package. And you can get started with your monthly payment plan and get started today. So I hope that you find this really interesting and really valuable. You can get started for as low as $299 today. And now what we want to do is we want to open the floor up to questions. And now there's a lot of questions that I saw coming in, and we are going to answer all the questions that are coming in and make sure that you do have your question in place so we can answer them. And so I'm going to see about the questions. I do see some answers here.
Actually, Jeff, can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
Before we get to questions, so I wanted to say a couple things. I talk to so many people that are at this line. It's like the line in the sand. You know, they want to start a podcast, a blog, a SaaS product. They want to become a freelancer. They want to sell, you know, some digital assets. Like we all have this thing in mind that we're reaching for. And I just feel like so often they're waiting. They're waiting to be ready, waiting to know enough, waiting to have enough, waiting to know what the next step should be, waiting to know what their goal should be. It's like we all have this thing this obstacle that we sort of created that we have in front of us, which is the reason we can't take that step. And as I'm looking at successful businesses, what I notice is that it's not linear. It's not like this step-by-step process, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Success is exponential. Success, however you define that, it seems to be going nowhere, and then suddenly it just like that curve just bends and seems to come out of nowhere. And this is why you hear the success stories. Oh, they seem to have come out of nowhere. They didn't come out of nowhere. You just only heard about it when they went vertical. And what I notice with that, as I talk to people who've experienced it, is it's like getting on that curve requires doing things before you're ready. If you wait till you're ready to get all your ducks in a row, it's probably too late. There's that saying in Silicon Valley: if you're not embarrassed by the product you just released, you waited too long. So, you know, several of you noticed that we put every urgency creation tactic, every marketing tactic we could find into this webinar, and I'm absolutely not apologetic. In fact, we'll teach you how to use some of those techniques, because I actually see, you know, the value that we're providing. It's content and it's coaching and it's community support and all these different things. But maybe one of the biggest things is accountability. The accountability of put your money where your mouth is, actually step beyond that line that you've stopped at before, and do the thing you've been saying you're going to do, even though you don't feel ready. Right? And that's why I love even your money back guarantee, Jeff, which I'm going to start doing. Like, you're only going to get your money back if you've done the exercises, right? Because I think that's actually providing a service to people that they're not just going to buy this thing already knowing that in a month or two, they're going to ask for their money back. No, I want to create accountability structures. Because that's, I mean, that is maybe the biggest thing lacking as a freelancer. You're just kind of out there in the world. There's no accountability, no mentorship, nor no coaching. You're just sort of free floating. No wonder you kind of lose your way. So you can really see Jeff and I as coaches and as mentors. Like, we know our domains really well. We're obsessed with them. We've dedicated a lifetime to learning them. And really everything we've shown you today is to have you take that step. Because once you do, you discover like so much that you never thought was possible or you never thought was available. And it all starts with just that one action. So that's all I wanted to say, and kind of encourage everyone to really look at what it would be worth to have that thing become real. And then basically to partner with us to help you make it come true.
I love it. This is like you and I like are like a two-headed monster, which sounds terrible to say that, but like honestly, it's like perfect compliments when we go through this, and I agree with you so much. Like accountability is key to this thing, and just committing, right? Committing to things, and I'm completely cognizant of that fact that not everybody is like, some of you are just on this webinar to learn some stuff, and you're like, I'm not ready to start a business. That's cool. Like we're not trying to put pressure on you, but for those of you who are like, hey, maybe this is the time to do it. The best thing I ever did in my life was to decide to start a business. And it was, it was a stressful decision. It took a long time for me to think about it. I actually put it into scenarios. I have a spreadsheet. I think I shared an agency course. I do share it in an agency course where I actually walk through my exact decision-making process of whether I can quit or not. And what my best case scenario is, worst case scenario was what I could do and how I could reach my goal, the reason why I use the 6-figure number here is because that was my goal. My goal was to reach 6 figures, and I put together a plan as to how I was going to get to that point. And so that's how I did it. But I think sometimes, you can wait for years, right? So I'm cool with however long you wait, but I do want to make it worthwhile for you, that if you're ready to go now, we're ready to go now too. Cool. So I'm going to get back on camera here, and Tiago, if you want to join me on camera, we are going to start answering the questions you have. Okay, so I'm going to get into the kind of putting the questions out there for me. So this is great. Question number 1, Stieg says, agency marketing, does it work for IT consulting, cybersecurity, etc.? Yeah, so I can answer this for sure. And so that is that I designed this for anybody who provides professional services. A lot of the techniques that I learned on how to provide a better professional service business was actually around dealing with my accountant, dealing with attorneys, dealing with people who have been doing this for years and who have created a business around keeping their clients happy, keeping themselves in demand, and keeping things going. And so I learned techniques from them, as many techniques as them as I learned from talking to hundreds of other marketing and analytics agency owners over the years. Now, I've been around in this business for 13 years, and I've had thousands of conversations with people, and it goes anywhere from, can you do that? How does your business work, to actually talking about techniques to improve our business. And the reality is that if you have clients, you consider somebody who is paying you money to perform a service for them, or if you're doing it, whether it's a straight service or if you're even trying to scale a service and use technology, these techniques apply. They apply to any type of business that works in that area. Absolutely. Okay. And if there's follow-ups or whatever, just put it in the chat. We'll see if we can get to it right away. Question number 2, Clay says, how do you get your first client? And then 2, what is the value proposition to get a client to pay a retainer when they don't know if they'll need as much of your service? Number 3, how do you handle clients who figure, hey, $2,000 a month is fine, but we need 100 hours of service per month? And then number 4, what are the top 2 or 3 objections clients typically have to that question, and how do you handle them? This is great. So I'm going to go through them one by one, Clayton. Number 1, how do you get your first client? So I got my first client by just telling everybody that I knew that I was open for business. Now, if you have a job, that's more difficult because you don't want to be public about it. But basically every family gathering I went to, everywhere that I went, it was like all I could talk about was my business because I was so excited about it. And I was like, hey, I'm open for business. Now, and that was before Facebook, that was before LinkedIn. Now it's even easier. You can broadcast that you're there and get people, work with people, but basically just let people know that you're there. Now, at first, you're not going to know maybe you have a vision as to what service you're going to perform, but at first you might not know the exact service you want to do. You just know that you're capable and willing. And so in that case, if you're not focused, you basically take on a lot of stuff, throw stuff on the wall, and you see what sticks, what works for you. You don't have to have it narrowed down to knowing the perfect service from day one, because it takes some trial and error. Not only does it take like it takes you have to have a service, right? You have to have something that you're good at, but you also have to see what the market will bear. And so even if you're great at something, you don't really know the market until you're in the marketplace. And so that's part of it. Number two, what's a value proposition for a client who wants a retainer, but you don't know how much service they're going to do? I wouldn't even put them on a retainer right away. I would start out with a discovery project, a small project that is agreeable, that has a defined set of start and end dates, and make it very discrete. Like when I say discrete, meaning that it ends at a certain point, have a clear termination point and a clear idea as to when this starts and when it ends. I think that's really valuable. That's the way to do it. Number three, how do you handle clients who figure they say, hey, 2,000 a month is fine, but I need 100 hours of service per month? You just have to draw the line and say, no. I a lot of times in my contracts, and I talk about this in Agency Jumpstart, in my contracts, what I will say is that there's a cap as to how many maximum hours we can do. So it's like 2,000 a month or up to 20 hours. And if it goes over 20 hours, we're not going to work over that unless it's pre-written or pre-approved by the client. And that just gives us upside protection. Now, generally speaking, I don't, if it goes from 20 hours and they need us extra 1 month and it goes to 25, we don't enforce that part of the clause, but it prevents you from going like too crazy with something. And so I would definitely have some kind of controls in the way that you write your contract and your agreement. And that's another thing where we help you with that inside of Agency Jumpstart. Then Clay, your final question is, what are the top 2 or 3 objections clients typically have to that, and how do you handle them? Well, the objections is often that they think that people will often think that a service is something that is like a product where you can get it on sale or there's margins built in. But a lot of times what you have to tell them is that that your margins are completely different in a service, and that you are giving your time, and that your time is precious and it's worth this much. And so you can't do a discount on it because you are performing for them. And so generally speaking, whenever somebody tries to negotiate me down or to get more for the same amount of money, I always take something off the table. And this is where you can use numbers to your advantage. There are plenty of guides out there as to saying what the freelance rate is for a certain service that you could provide. And a lot of times when we're first getting started out, we are way under the normal rates. And so you can just say, here's what the market rates are. Do you agree with this? And then they sort of go away and they say, okay, this makes sense. They're getting a deal. But generally speaking, it's the caliber of your client indicates how you can treat them and how you can work with them. And if they're just getting started themselves with using a service provider like yourself, then it's going to take some education. And there's no way around that. You do need to have a smart client in order to get smart results. Did you have anything to add, Tiago?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the monthly retainer thing, I think what's important, well, in my experience, what's been important about that is I've discovered that the timing of revenue is just as important as the amount. Like my example, I don't really have like big corporate clients on monthly retainer, but what I do have is Praxis, and it makes, I think now like a couple grand a month. That couple grand is worth more to me because of its predictability, the fact that it's every month, that it's kind of set, than an equivalent amount that's way, way higher, right? And that's like, if I look at my income over the past 5 years too, it's just like the variability as a freelancer is so insane, which is really hard because in the up years, you spend a lot of money, and then in the down years, you have to like reduce your lifestyle. And also in the down years, you kind of reduce your spending, but then you don't make investments for the up years. So it's like that variability, if you can just kind of soften it a little bit through even a relatively small amount of monthly recurring revenue, the impact of that in terms of your lifestyle, your stress, your ability to make future investments, all these things is just huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Clay had a follow-up saying, oh, and he said, yeah, removing something and how WP Curve, which is, I believe, a software or a productized service, they say you can only have so many issues at a time. Yeah, I mean, so I think you have to triage and just make it clear with clients that you are working how you're working, right? So excellent. Francis says, if I work as a business consultant, I have various target groups, companies, other consultancies, public institutions that may have different needs and requirements. How do I define a clear marketing positioning without falling into a niche and neglecting possible opportunities? Francis, this is a great question. So I think one of the biggest concerns we have when we start business is that we think that it's our responsibility to work with every client who's interested in us. And I don't think that's the right way to run a profitable business. So being a specialist is the key to profits. Being very clear in what services you provide, specializing in what you do is the way to do it. And so I think the hardest part is we think that we're going to miss revenue even if it's not in our target market, but there's a difference between revenue and profits. And so yes, it's okay to turn down somebody who's not in your focus area or who you don't think is going to be profitable because it's not where you're focused. Now think about it this way. And that's easy for me to say, but here's the reality. If you're performing, I did a lot of PPC, Google AdWords management. If I'm managing an AdWords account and I do that every single day, all day, and I do that, for 10 clients, I get really efficient at it. I get really good at it. I have processes. I have ways to go through things. I have a daily routine, and that allows me to take on 10 clients. Whereas if I were doing things on my own, maybe I'd only have one client on something else. And so there's economies and efficiencies of scale by doing the same thing over and over again. Yes, it might be boring, but it does lead to efficiency. And efficiency means that it costs you less money to deliver for the next client. And that goes completely to your bottom line, as I talked about earlier in the training. Now, on the other hand, if you do one day you're doing PPC, the next day you're doing a web design, the next day you're doing a video edit, and the day after that you're doing a logo design, and then the fifth day you're doing something else, you don't have enough time to really get great at those things and to get more efficient. And so each time you're not going to be able to maximize profits. And so I think it's something where when we first get started, we think we need to take in every request. But the more you do this, the more you get comfortable at not thinking you have to fulfill that obligation. So it's more of a, over time, you get more comfortable with it because you realize that the sky didn't fall in the second that you turned down a piece of business that wasn't in your target market. Okay. Paul's question, do you use the monthly retainer model even if there are high initial costs on the front end? Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. So from that perspective, I always charge a setup fee. So if I'm doing a monthly retainer and it takes me 3 months worth of work at the beginning, I charge it. It's as simple as that. So if I'm doing something that's 3 times as much work to get started, I charge them 3 times as much. Generally speaking, even though I tell you not to charge by the hour, that I don't think it's the best business model, it eventually does come down to time, like the amount of time your resources need to put into something in order to deliver that value. And so even if you use time and hours as an internal method, you still want to charge them on a retainer basis. But that's how I factor everything in. If they want, if there's a bunch of costs at the front end, I just charge for it. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to go to question number 5. I think it's Panji. Hi, Jeff. I guess reputation really matters here. How did you build yours when you first started? So I could talk for hours about how I started and how I built my business, but basically I just put myself out there, and you just need to start working. And you're not going to you might not command top dollar from day one, but you need to start working. You need to get a portfolio experience. You need to work with people. You need to build relationships. And then that just leads to more. Everything that I do in my life is from one relationship leading to another. The reason why we're here right now is because Tiago Forte came into my radar because of a relationship I built with a student of mine named Jan. Now, Jan, I believe, is on the call. Jan, say you're here if you're here, but I know you're in the woods right now in Slovakia, so you might not be able to hear me right now. But Jan connected us. Now, the way that I met Jan was because I was at a conference in Hungary. And the reason why I went to the conference in Hungary is because of another piece of networking. Basically, everything I've done in my entire life, everything in my career has come from putting myself out there and leveraging one opportunity into the next one. And this goes all the way back 13 years. Now, I'm fortunate that I've been doing this for 13 years because that means that it's compounded and the number of relationships has gotten even stronger and bigger. But that's how it works. That's how we pull this all together, is by doing it that way. And so put yourself out there.
Yeah, if I could say one thing on that, that it's same thing with me. If I look at every big break I had, even though I basically live on the internet, I'm like a citizen of the internet. My business has become more and more online as time has gone by. I'd say if you're doing business online, it's even more important to have these opportunities in person, to meet people in person, because that's your competitive advantage, right? Like everyone else is sending these people emails. If you can meet an influencer or a thought leader or just someone interesting in the flesh, you just cut right through all that noise and you're there, face to face. So I think that's huge. And that's part of the power of efficiency. Once you have these things kind of working in the background, you are free to personally not have to be there manning the store at all times.
Yep, absolutely. Excellent
Yeah.
question. Yeah. So Sonia says, I recently heard of a model where the client pays a small retainer, i.e., $100 a month, and then as the client earns more revenue, the consultant gets a percentage of their monthly revenue. What do you think? Sonia, this is very similar to the model that people use called pay for performance. It's more of like a hybrid pay for performance. Basically, you're getting some money up front, but then they also give you the upside. Um, I personally, $100 is this is going to sound well. We should just say it, right? When you get to be a veteran consultant and you're in this business for a while, $100 is not even worth getting out of bed. It's not worth the time and effort that goes into it. So $100 a month, that's not even what I call the cost to keep the lights on. You need to have a certain minimum amount of money to maintain a relationship, because a relationship at a bare minimum with a client is at least one call a month. That's the minimum. And if you value your time at, let's say, $100 an hour, then that $100 means that they get one call, but there's no time left over to do the work. And so we call that our keep the lights on cost. And so eventually you get to the point where, well, if you can do that type of model if you believe in your services enough and you believe in the client, because that's important as well. Your services don't really mean much if the client doesn't participate, or if they don't have the skills or the product to make so that your skills are applied to it, or that you can really apply it and make money, make them revenue. The other thing is attribution of revenue is not the easiest thing to do. It does take time to tie it out and to understand what the revenue is, that type of stuff. And so the only way I would work on a performance contract is if they had the minimum was the actual work we did, and the upside was upside, like an incentive to participate. And that's the only way that I would do it, is if my lights on, if my cost of doing business was covered, then I might gamble on the profits, maybe, but only if I had everything else taken care of and my other revenue was looking strong. I like Clay. Clay's got some really good points in here. Oh, I just lost my headphones. Clay saying, don't hitch your wagon to an unsuccessful client, making it clear that it's how business works. I like that interesting stuff. Okay. So I think we just got through Sonia's. There's some more questions. I think that's the last question I have in here. So if you have questions, pop them up in the chat and then we'll get right to the top. But I'm really appreciating all the chats and the questions we have. And for those of you who have signed up, I'm so happy to have you in the course. Looks like quite a few of you are in there. I don't think that the sign up, the first 5 bonuses there, maybe it is or not. I have to look at it. I'm looking at my screen, not in there. So, okay, new question comes in. Stieg says, will you share the presentation with us, and how long does it take to take if one follows recommended pace? Yes, Stieg. So will I share the presentation? So the replay will be available to you automatically. I think it goes out 6 hours after the webinar starts. So in about 4.5 hours from now. And then the presentation will be in there. If you want to send me an email, if you really want the exact presentation and stuff like that, let me know, send me an email and we can talk about it. And then what's the pace of the course? Basically, we want you to dedicate 1 hour a day to your business. We want you to create a good habit where every day you wake up or you focus on one thing you can improve on your business. And that's how the content is delivered. It's basically to be once a day to go after your business. And we do that over the course of basically 8 to 10 weeks, depending on which package you've signed up for. I like
Totally.
Tiago's pose.
I did want to say too.
Frozen to Tiago just like this. So let me just match it. All right, cool. Go ahead.
There's a bit of a delay, so sorry about that. Yeah, for those that have questions about building second brain, since it's been closed for a month or two now, we're going to open that today or tomorrow. And that's, so we're releasing, the reason I say today or tomorrow is we're actually in the process of releasing version 5.1 now, which is a new in-depth case study, has a new like building a second brain on one page, like PDF, has a few other things. We're going to be releasing that, and basically you're going to be the first in the door for this new and improved version of building a second brain. And the question, how long that takes, is it depends completely on you. I've seen people do it in like 2 days. They're really hungry for it. And I've seen people take months if they want to just take it very, very slowly. Oh, one of the new features we have with version 5.1 is a new recommended schedule, which is a Google Doc that you can copy to your own account and then you can modify it. So the one we have is 4 weeks. This is what you would need to cover and when to finish within 4 weeks, which is, I would say, my recommendation, to not get too in the weeds or to do it too quickly. But if you say have 5 weeks, have 6 weeks, if you're doing 2 weeks and then have 2 weeks off for vacation and then you're coming back, you can just customize your own schedule, which actually is a technique in the course itself. And then take it really whatever pace you want. And we provide support through a dedicated Slack channel, through a private online forum, really indefinitely. Like we're really looking to build a community that supports each other over time indefinitely, not just this one thing like, okay, there's your product. And actually, I wanted to say that was something going through Agency Jumpstart that I really, really looked for and I really liked, is these sorts of prices, hundreds or thousands of dollars, are not worth it just for content, right? You can go online and find a billion free articles, go on YouTube, go on Coursera, go on all these things, right? Like, don't do this just for content as if like some factoid or tip is going to make the difference. Do it for the support that we provide. What I look for with Jeff and his team is that they provide ongoing support, right? If you purchase today through email and through a phone call, but even if you don't, through their private online forum, through their Facebook group, just like we do. And that was key for me. I was not going to send you guys to just a page where you click a button and download some PDFs. So that was one thing I really liked, is their continued support. Do it for so I was going to say, do it for the coaching, do it for the support, do it for the community, do it for the updates. Both of us are dedicated to actually continuously developing ourselves and continuing to learn. And I think we're both really dedicated to sharing what we learn. So yeah, really, this is like, I think back to, if I could have had these two courses 5 years ago, I just wonder where I would be now, right? Not like the business fundamentals you're teaching, Jeff. Like, oh my gosh, I've had to learn that through just such painful trial and error,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I did stuff like, I read the Personal MBA book, I think it's called, where they're going to teach you an MBA in a book. You know, I've taken tons of online. I mean, I studied business. I was a business major in college, and yet I've never heard things like monthly, retainer, recurring revenue model. I've never heard about the importance of the budgeting cycle. It's like just crazy that we're paying what we pay for college and what we pay for other kinds of education that just does not deliver the real world stuff.
Yeah.
And that's actually the other thing I really liked about what you do, which is it's so rare to have someone that's worked in physical in-person settings and online, that has sold digital services and sort of more traditional services. Like, those worlds tend to be like different quadrants, and people master a quadrant. They're an online marketer and they like sell Facebook ads, and they go, yeah, I'm a master of business. Or they're over here and they don't understand the digital world. Jeff has crossed those chasms multiple times. And so, I mean, really today, there's no such thing as a digital business and a traditional business. They've all completely merged. And so you need someone that can speak about, PPC and CPA and all these, whatever the terms are that I don't fully know, just as easily as like financial statements and profit margins. So those are just a couple of the things that I most liked about Agency Jumpstart.
That's awesome. It's funny because I didn't know the financial stuff either when I first got started. I happened to be married to a lawyer who's also an MBA who works at an accounting firm in international tax. So everything that I didn't know, she's helped me out and drilled it down. And I've spent a lot of time talking to accountants and professional services. My business partner at 3 Deep, my agency, he's a accountant. And so he's a CPA and he had a lot of really good advice. The other business partner was a sales guy, classically trained sales guy. So you really do learn from being around people who have been there, done that, and they can help you make a lot of moves that are not moves, but like make decisions that you wouldn't have intuitively known, but those are the right decisions. I mean, what it comes down to is that there is a set of instructions to operating a good business. You need to make more money than you spend. You need to, set a target for profitability. You need to have consistent money coming in and cash flow. These are all things that are really important. And it's good to be it's easy to be a one trick pony where you find somebody, and it's exciting too. It's exciting to have somebody pay you a $5,000 contract for the first time. But that's not a business. That's just a freelancer. That's just like a one-off luck thing. You can't really turn that into a career or business unless you have a way to do it consistently. And that's really what I want to teach and what I teach in this course and what I teach everybody that goes through any of my classes, whether it's in person, like I said, I'm teaching in person in May, or if it's online, whatever it is, these are the important things, is that one trick ponies are okay. You can do it, but you need to keep on doing it over and over again to turn it into a business, to go pro. I do see another question came in from Zhao, and hopefully I got that right. I'm sure that I didn't. But if you have a service that enacts a change in the way a client works, like training, how do you retainerize that? That is a good one. So some services are really, they lend themselves well to monthly recurring revenue. Some things don't. Now, let me give you an idea as to another business. So my father's business, I happen to be at his house right now in Florida. His business does surveys, and basically, not people don't need a survey every single month. So he doesn't really have monthly retainer clients, but every single year they need a new survey. And so he basically has a lot of renewals of his clients, and every single year, like 99% of his clients renew, and he does the same survey for them with a new set of data and a new set of analysis. And so he's basically turned it into, instead of being a monthly retainer, almost like an annualized renewable contract. So that might be one way to consider it. Obviously, it takes longer to get that revenue ramp going. It can take multiple years as opposed to doing it all in the first year. But that might be one way to look at it. You can look at what the quarterly component is to training, like how often do they need it updated. You just have to think outside of the box as to maybe you've only sold. The reason why people only want training once is because you've only given them the option of doing it once. How do you get them to continuously want that? If they have new employees, if they have new things coming in, how do you do the maintenance on it? That's a secret of the service business. Maintenance makes money. One-off projects don't make much money, but maintenance, even if it's not the same amount of money as your main one, that makes you a lot of money, the ongoing project. So thinking of new ways to do it might be the way to get there. Clay
Totally.
said that he used building a second. Oh, sorry. Do you want to weigh in, Tiago?
No, I love it. And maintenance sounds such a boring word, but it takes so many forms. Everything from updates to upgrades to just holding their hand and sort of reassuring them that everything's okay. It's like it's relatively easy, super profitable. It's sort of built in. Like, of course, if you were the one that built the thing, delivered, created the thing, they're going to want you to keep it going. And you see that in other businesses, like like even companies that sell like jet engines. The jet engine will be like a loss, and then they make it up on the service contracts. Like, it's just a very logical thing.
Mm-hmm. Clay says, more so what is making the student successful at okay, so what is making the student successful at universities? Everybody says the content, the professor, but you take that same content, you deliver it to 50 self-studiers in the form of a MOOC, massively online course. Some will succeed on average, however, performance of the class will destroy self-learners. Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to, is that there's all kinds of different ways to learn, right? And there's different ways to look at it. So absolutely. Yeah. So if clients tell you the good things you did, then that means that you should charge more. I like that one. Jet engines are selling the service. Yeah, you're right. I mean, like, do you know how much more money Boeing makes on maintaining airplanes than they do on building new ones? Like, that's where they make all the money is on maintenance, for sure. All right, everybody, get your questions in. Otherwise, I know we've taken a lot of your time. Still quite a few of you on the webinar. Actually, over half of you are still on the webinar, so that's cool. That means that you're getting value, you're learning, or you're just waiting to see what's happening next. So I do appreciate you sticking around for an hour and 39 minutes at this point.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm like, wow, there's over 40 people still on. I wonder what you guys are wanting to hear. You can ask questions of me too. I'm happy to answer anything about building a second brain and my half of the offering.
I like your Clay. I like your comments. The software industry accidentally discovered monthly revenue. They started online businesses and had to charge monthly. Okay. Raphael says, one issue that I struggle with is making a decision about what service to offer or the value I can offer. What could the agency course offer to experience a breakthrough with that? Everything. That's the whole point. Is like I I will help you workshop what business you should start, how it works, how you can make money off of it, and how do you develop your unique value proposition? How do you build relationships? If you don't even know what your business is going to be yet, we will get you there. So one example is two of my students are named Grant and Tim, and they're Aussies living in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And they did a one-on-one call with me after signing up in November, and they weren't sure what they wanted to do. They were like, oh, I've taken your PPC course, I've taken your analytics course, we like that stuff. We don't know what we want to do. And so Tim and Grant, we had a call, and they were doing everything that, you can never do anything wrong because everything you do wrong is still gathering experience. But they were doing things differently than how I would, and so I coached them through their first proposal. It was with a plastic surgeon. I talked to them about industries they could target, where their expertise could go, industries that make them so they can work in Asia or they can work in Australia, depending on time zones. And they just start they and now I've checked in with them, and they basically are like, we are the premier PPC agency for plastic surgeons. And then the other thing that they're doing is we are the premier PPC agency for cryptocurrencies. And so I thought that was sort of funny because I was like, that's an emerging market. There's a lot of money going into it. Maybe that's something to focus on. And there's a lot of people in Asia. And so they really sort of embraced it. And the other thing was they were looking at, they had this proposal, and they were willing to charge, or they were willing to charge only $1,000 a month to do about $15,000 worth of services. And so they like, Jeff, can you look at our proposal and tell us how we did? And so I recorded a video for them, and I said, hey guys, there's there's a lot that I wouldn't do here. Like you're giving away too much. You're not based on reality. This estimate isn't there. And they redid it, and instead of selling $15,000 worth of services for $1,000, they ended up getting $6,000 a month, and they only did $6,000 worth of services. And so they were really happy about that because that gave them the anchor client they needed to go and pursue the rest of their business. So I thought it was great. And that's the type of stuff that I want to do to help you out. If you don't know where you're going, sign up and we'll do the one-on-one call if there's one still available. Otherwise, we'll do the unlimited 90 days of 60 days of consulting, and we will answer all these questions. I love answering these questions. I love working through and solving problems and puzzles, and helping you figure out what you want to be and and how you want to do it. And so that's exactly why I do this. That's why the agency course exists, is for that precise reason, is to help you out, to help you figure these things out. And it doesn't matter where you start. Like, I don't have any pretension about where you started or where you're going. Like, we treat every situation as if it's like, this is where we start and we're going to get you to where you want to be. It's all personalized to you. Um, Mabedo, Yeah, so it sounds like you're the same situation. Let me know if I answered that well enough for you guys. If you want more detail, Clay, yes, Clay, you sell shovels during the gold rush. I agree. That's something that I do think is a good tactic. Evan Cherry, I see now says, I noticed something in Jeff's course will talk about 4 reasons to not add additional services, and it seems to contrast with Tiago's idea of creating a portfolio of services. I've recently read his posts on full stack freelancers and thought they were great. What's the balance between focus and diversity of services? I do love this contrast, Evan, because I do think that this is it's a debate we could have probably longer than we have time on this webinar. But my perspective on offering too many services is simply that it's like the jack of all trades, master of none. If you're trying to, like, you can scale broadly and do it with fewer clients, or you can scale vertically and do it with more clients. And it's up to you how you want to do that. But you have, like, if you want to really get profitable with your business and you want to maximize profits, generally speaking, it's going to be this vertical piece that works. Now, if you want to be a one-person shop and you want to have satisfaction and depth with your clients, I think there's an argument you could make of saying, I want to be horizontally integrated and I want to do everything for 1 or 2 clients and go there. But that's much harder to scale. So I think that both ideologies work. And in fact, I'm not, my goal with this course is not to tell you you have to run this type of business. It's to give you a consideration set that you can use for making your own decision as to whether you want to do the Jeff approach or you want to do the Tiago approach. And actually, I'm not opposed to either of them. I'm not going to tell you that one is right or wrong, because it's the you factor that we need to put into it. Now, Tiago can go with the counterpoint, but generally speaking, I'm trying to help. If you want to build $1 million business, it's going to be really hard to do it as a full stack freelancer. You might be able to get to 100,000, 200,000. You might be very satisfied, but it's almost impossible to build $1 million business being a full stack freelancer type. But a lot of people don't want $1 million business, and that's totally cool.
Totally, yeah, great question, Evan. So I just put in the chat the part 1 and the part 2 for that full stack freelancer article, which is basically, for those of you not familiar, it's basically my model for what I think a lot of the future of work is going to look like, which is basically using it's freelancers. So yeah, it actually is an interesting contrast, because the argument I'm making is, like, you can be a specialist, but by leveraging digital technology and online platforms, you can also have a portfolio. And I think the key point to keep in mind is, if you look at part 2 and then you look at the graphic right at the top of the article, where I have all the different apps and services and, like consultant, like, subscriptions that I use, you'll notice there's this portfolio that ranges from, social media to a subscription service to public workshops, online courses to coaching, corporate trainings, and consulting. Most of those are highly leveraged using technology. Like ebooks. Like, this is a great example. Once you publish that ebook, it's a one-time project that then goes up on the Kindle, the Amazon server, and people just buy. They buy it again and again and again. It actually becomes like a monthly revenue source. Same thing with online courses. Building a second brand, we've been running it for a year and a few months, and Kevin has now taken, 90+% of the responsibility. I've very consciously tried to cut myself out of that loop, cut the tether. Besides, things like the masterclass and the monthly calls, because I need to be able to spin that off and then dedicate my efforts to the things that are difficult to leverage, which is the actual services. It's the actual consulting, the actual corporate trainings. So in that sense, I really focus on the services. I just also happen to have a range of different products that sell at various degrees of sort of independence. So I think it's very, I think the boundaries and the paradox between these two approaches are very, I think, fruitful and good to, like, kind of like Jeff said, fit to your own situation and what you want to do. Some people want to write books and have Kindle books. Some people, that would just be their worst nightmare.
Yep. And you have to evaluate. Like, the more information you have, the more you can evaluate what you want to do. Like, I honestly, I didn't think that I was going to have an agency business at all. My goal was to do AdSense websites and to just travel the world and be a digital nomad. And then I went and, worked full time at building my agency for 10 years. And then, came back to revisit some of the digital nomad stuff, which I've been doing. So I'm fully nomadic at this point in time, but it was a wild ride to get to that point. And so let's see here. We have more questions coming in, so I'm just going to go to those. Question number, I saw. Let's see here. I just lost one. I thought Babak had a question. I see it. Babak says, we consult private and institutional investors and invest on their behalf as manager. Have you or your clients identified scalable synergies for revenue recurring fee mode, the confluence of consulting and asset management fee models? I think that's Babak. I think I understand what you're saying, but it's so specific that I don't know if I don't want to misspeak about it. I need to think about it a little bit longer. Maybe that's why the question's not showing up anymore. But I think you can. There is an opportunity to figure out how to do that. I mean, what you're describing almost sounds like how I have an advisor with Ameriprise, and you pay them for a consulting fee, then you also pay them on trades or something like that. I mean, I think that model can work, and it's a good model if you can get it to work and you can get clients and they're okay with it. But if you want to take that offline, or if we want to do that during our call, let's do that. Medavo says, I cannot afford the course at the moment, but I'm trying to build a career plan. Do you offer a service just to consult on figuring out the value proposition? So we do have a course called the Unique Selling Proposition Masterclass, which we are releasing soon as part of agency course. It is not available for sale standalone at the moment, but we might be selling that at some point in the future, maybe in the next few months. And when we do sell that, you're going to be on our email list, and so you have the opportunity to take a look at it. And like anybody who's not ready right now, you will still be on our email list as long as you want to stay subscribed. You have been subscribed to our agency Sage email list, which I send out every Friday. I send my Sage message, and so you will be on that list. Karen says,
I wanted to touch on something you said.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's the lag. One thing that you said that I want to highlight too, you kind of just barely mentioned it, is like the emerging markets that are going on today. And I really think there has not been a better time to become a freelancer in history than today. I mean, there's all these forces coming together. You have all the new SaaS services, like I talk about in my full stack freelancer thing, that have never been cheap enough, easy to use enough, simple enough for individuals and agencies to use, combining with emerging, totally new industries just overnight practically. I just talked to someone last night. In a matter of months, he raised funding and built a team to do tax planning for cryptocurrency investors, right? That's going to be huge, right? And think of what a huge need that is. Like, they have to pay taxes like this year. Many of them, many people have made a lot of money, millions in some cases. They need someone. That's a huge need. You couldn't have predicted that even 1 year ago or 2 years ago. And also just the ability, I think another underappreciated one is like all the things that you used to have to be in a company to get, such as mentorship. I mean, having a manager and your manager's manager that actually had more experience and being able to learn from them. In the past, if you were a freelancer, you removed yourself from this whole ecosystem of mentorship and sort of like learning, to including like being social. Like now we have co-working spaces. Like it's like we've reached a critical mass of freelancers that you can build a life out of, the dog park, the co-working space, the local networking group, your online communities. Like, it used to be pretty lonely before we had all these things. And then including just the growth of online business. Like, it's, people have been making money online for a long time, but it's like, maybe it's because I'm in the Bay Area as part of it, but there's this feeling now that like, it's not even unusual anymore to have an online business. It's not this exotic, like, ooh, like you live in Bali and you have a thing. It's like, oh, you have an online business, great. I feel like probably half my friends, I would say, maybe the Bay Area is a little bit ahead of the curve, but usually it's just a few years before it reaches everywhere else. Half of them they're making money from Instagram accounts, from like product partnerships on YouTube channels. Like, we're in this new world where there are more ways of making money online to fit more different personal proclivities than ever before. You don't have to be an internet marketer living in Bali anymore. Now there's a new wave of writers and journalists and video makers and restaurant reviewers finding ways to do this.
Yep. It seems like that is going to be that is the economy, the future of it, right? And there's a book called The End of Jobs that I think exemplifies that as well, as basically like everybody's going to be a freelancer, right? And so it's either here right now, like you said, in the Bay Area, or it's ever present. But that's really what it comes down to, is that there's the gig economy. There's a lot of opportunity out there. But I think that just blindly going into that area is not something that I would recommend, because the same things that I talk about in the course, like preventing, that make sure that you don't do, you need to have the business acumen. Otherwise, people will take advantage of you. Otherwise, it's just a job by a different name. That's the problem. I don't want it. I don't want people to fall into the job by a different name.
Yeah, actually, that book was written by Taylor Pearson, who is one of our exclusive guest interviews in Building a Second Brain. He took the course and he came on and talked to us, and you can find that we have like an interview library with recordings of all the past guests. And we had a fascinating discussion. What personal knowledge management and note-taking over here has to do with the future of jobs, and there's a surprising amount of crossover.
Love it. All right, I have one more question. I think it's Karen. Says, what's your take on productized services, essentially packaged services with a fixed price? Karen, I like the idea of productized services in a few ways. But yeah, the basic, let me just define what it is, and then talk about the difference between that and just full out service agency type business. So productized services that say that you do, I was mentioning, like if you manage somebody's Google AdWords account and you do the same things over and over again. Well, if you have the repetitive stuff, then why don't you put like a help desk in place and put some kind of like software behind it, so that instead of having the human work, you're actually creating technology that does the work for them, essentially, or it's technology enabled services. So it's using technology to bring scale and to bring function to it. You charge maybe a fixed price, or you have different packages. There's WP Curve, there's Design Pickle. There's all, if you listen to like the Tropical MBA podcast, they talk about this a lot. I think that it is a different business model for sure than doing services. Now, let me just explain why the business model is different. So if you're doing a software or a productized service, you might charge $100 a month, which is a lot for a productized service. It's very little for an agency. And you might be able to find 10,000 clients to pay you $100 a month, and suddenly you have a pretty good looking business, like $1 million a month, good looking business. And you have efficiencies of scale. You have a help desk. You have like resources that you're plugging in to do the work, and you're just delivering work, and it scales really well. And you have a lot of different parts. It's basically taking the best parts of software, or parts of software as a service and parts of being a service business, and it's doing something in between. So once you get to scale, it can be very effective. I think the problem that you're going to face, anybody faces, is getting to scale. And so I think that actually you could have an aspiration to do technology and to build it all out there. But I think that only a very small percentage of service businesses can succeed in shifting to a different business model, which is productized services. And so I actually still recommend starting with doing services, pure services, to understand what you like about it, what you don't like, and figure out where the inefficiencies are. And then it is an outcome that we talk about in Agency Jumpstart, that you could just become a productized service. You actually aren't an agency long. You start it out, you start defining it, getting the value proposition, getting the technology and the scale in place. And then you say, now we are a productized service. We are no longer a full service agency. That is an outcome that we talk about in Agency Course, but it's not something that I recommend for everybody. It's really more of a decision you make based on the type of business you want to run.
Totally, yeah. My perspective on that is, like, I love productizing services. Like, every service that I offer is I just think of it as a research and development for the eventual product that we'll have. And the reason for that is I get bored quickly. After I've been doing a service for a certain amount of time, I'm over it. But I don't want to, I don't want to do that particular kind of work anymore, but I still want the revenue from it. So my solution is just to And this is originally how I started using Evernote. I just thought, well, how am I going to productize this service? Let me just save a tidbit, every knowledge, every piece of knowledge, every learning, every insight. And then after a relatively short amount of time, I would just look at these notebooks and be like, wow, if I just get these exact notes, put them in a different order, add some chapter headings, I have a book, I have an online course, I have at the very least like a workshop that I can deliver with minimal preparation and it's kind of repeatable rather than starting everything from scratch. So like I did productization to sort of compensate for my short attention span. But it also, I mean, eventually I think each individual product doesn't make that much money. It's not going to sustain me on its own. But when you have a dozen of them, and especially if it's predictable or semi-predictable, you're done. Like you have your recurring revenue streams, and you can do something else or retire or move to wherever you want to move to. So I mean, that's my end game. I know it's different for every person.
Yeah. No, I mean it is I couldn't agree more. I mean, and trust me, I think Tiago and I both are examples of like trying a bunch of different things. We all have an aspiration, right? And I think that ultimately our aspiration is personal freedom to feel like we are not locked into some kind of job or that we have options. Like that's my goal in this whole thing. And in order to achieve that, you need to try several things and see what you like, because it could sound like the grass is always greener and does it work or not. So I've had the aspiration of, I just want a bunch of $5,000 a month businesses, right? I just want to have 10 businesses that make 5,000 a month, and then we're looking pretty good. Like that's a great income. But it turns out that when you go down that path, you can't divide your time up by 10 and do that. So it's like, well, then you need to focus on one business, and then that might be more than 5,000. And so there's no perfect formula. You basically just need to take ideas and to make them into something that you're comfortable with, and it's going to take a few to work. And obviously the whole point of this webinar is to avoid a lot of that trial and error by following the examples of people who have succeeded. And I teach in stories. I don't teach in like saying you need to do this. I don't give advice. I just talk about how I think the story is going to play out based on my experience and the experience of others. Russell has a question. He says, what are the costs, stakes to me not doing this work as aligned to my framework of the future? If you can't measure the costs, then you will suffer decision inertia. I've always felt Tiago's products should be viewed as a skill acquisition arbitrage against future thesis, while everyone else is struggling to decide or even contextualize what is actually unfolding in the world. Yeah.
Nice. I better save that to my notes.
I do like that. It's a good way to put it. I mean, so I don't know if we're supposed to answer this question or not, but what I would say is that the costs of not doing something like this could either be zero or it could be a lot. And it's really hard to quantify. It can be something like the cost compared to an MBA. This is much cheaper. It could be the cost compared to going out and finding a client using one tip in the course. That could be something where, okay, well, you amortize that. Like say that just one tip from the business development lesson, something you can use once a year to develop $1,000 worth of new business. Amortize that over your career, and you just paid 20 years left in your career. It's an extra 20 grand. Now that's like a bare minimum, right? So you could look at it on that timeline. I think that it could be anywhere in between. But ultimately, I mean, I have lots of students who go through this, and they have increased the revenues in year one, even within like month 1 through 3, made an extra $10,000 in top line revenue only using the techniques that I teach them. And so that's something that's like a solid value proposition. But then there's also the cost saving. Some people are like they're just getting started with their business and they're like, man, at least I don't have to like spend all this money on gurus or something like that. Or I don't have to spend all this money on wasted efforts, or I don't have to go and try this marketing tactic because I know it's not going to work. So it's either it's revenue or cost savings, and the course is designed to give you both, frankly. Bobek says, not sure if this came up. If we sign up for the full suite, what ordering do you suggest between building a second brain and agency jumpstart? He has not taken building a second brain yet. Yeah. So if they had both courses, what would be the order? Tiago, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, so this is so interesting because the actual comment, more than a year ago now that had me start thinking about doing a partnership like this one was, I think his name was Michael. He was in the first round of building a second brand. So I was like, guys, I don't even know what this is for, how you'll find it most useful, but here's this course. It was like the first trial. And he was so clear. He said, there's a million courses online about how to start online courses or online businesses, right? Like there's a lot out there, but your course is upstream of those, right? Because what those courses don't teach you is how to take online courses, right? Or how to take notes or capture learnings from online courses in a way that you can actually put them to use now, in the future, far in the future. So it's almost like, I mean, he said like people should take your course before they take any other course. And actually, if you look at on I believe it's Coursera, by far their most popular course is called Learning How to Learn. And honestly, like, I'm a little biased, but I went through it. I thought it was honestly terrible. It was just so basic. It was like, make an outline, or like, you know, I tend to be pretty opinionated. Like, no, you should do it this way, like for all these reasons. So, you know, maybe my way is not for everyone. I'm sure it's not. But it's like, you know, it's almost like the key to unlock all the incredible knowledge resources on the web is a note-taking system. I believe that. Like, if you're not taking notes, what do you expect to remember this? Do you expect to like go back and watch those videos? You're not going to. So I would definitely say take building a second brain first. But I would also say it doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't got to be, you know, 1 through 10 and then 1 through 10. Like, you know, like, I could see like taking one, you know, a few units of building a second brain and then starting Agency Jumpstart. I could see doing them simultaneously. I could see building a second brain as 3 pillars, take one pillar at a time and then apply that to the different modules in Agency Jumpstart. Yeah. Right? Like this is where your own customization, like, you know how you learn. Do you learn chaotically, just like jumping in immersively, or do you like to have everything really laid out? And you have that freedom because both of our courses are self-paced. Mine for the first time. You know, starting in January, it just became self-paced, because before you had to go through a very certain order. So that's, you know, that's another benefit, is you can do it how you like.
Yep. Yeah, I think that, I mean, the way that we deliver my course as well, the agency course, is spread out over time. So you're gonna get notified of the emails since you just signed up. You probably already got the first email, Babak, and so whether you do it, you know, just tuck them away then for when you're ready, or watch. I mean, there's insights that you're going to get. And so I think if you're going to choose one, I would agree that probably building second brain is the first way to go, because that'll make going through the agency course even more valuable. But it doesn't mean that you have to do them mutually exclusive. I wouldn't say.
Yeah, and one thing I would say is, if you get stuck, like, this is what I'm constantly watching for in my courses, is for someone getting stuck. That's when you need to use the support. Okay, don't think you're going to finish the whole course beginning to end and then start. I've had people say this: oh, I haven't been on the online forum because I haven't finished the course. And I'm like, the purpose of the online forum is for when you get stuck and you don't know how to move forward, that we can help you, because we've seen hundreds of people go through it. Yeah. And sometimes we can just say, oh, that place you're stuck doesn't even matter. Like, just like set it aside. Or we can say, oh yeah, this unit 6, it will solve the question that's stopping you here. Or we can even, I'm constantly sharing notes from my own Evernote database, like pinpointing very specific problems that people have. So I'd say, you know, dive in, just dive in, just go for it, and then depend on us and our teams to get you unstuck when you get stuck.
Yep. That's what we do, because we realize one of the quotes I think from Clay earlier was that if everybody takes a massively online course, nobody's going to complete it. Like, that's the reason why we add the supplemental stuff on top of it. It's because we don't want to have any excuses for not completing it. Like, we don't want you to say that that you didn't have access or you weren't sure about something. We don't want any stumbling blocks. I try to make it as personal as possible, even though it is an online course, because of that exact reason. Is that it's like everything. This is the biggest question I get from somebody who wants to start their own business, and it came up on this call. A couple of you had this question: is what service should I offer? How do I get started with no experience, no prospects, no contacts, nothing? And I think that, you know, that's a big question, but but I can't give you the exact answer without knowing more about you, right? So it's like, okay, well, you can watch all the videos on how to build a business, how to generate profits, but if you don't have any income coming in, maybe that's not as important. But then there is a module on business development. How do you generate business? So you got to sort of self-assess what your biggest problem is and then learn those parts, but then use us to help you bridge that gap, because we tell you, this is something where we're trying to anticipate what your needs are, but there's nothing better than, there's no easier way to understand that than for you to tell us what you need and how we can help you. That's why we have the extra component. That's why we have the groups on top too. Cool. I don't see any more questions coming in, but we are here to answer questions. This is over the 2-hour mark. You guys are definitely an engaged group. We still have over 30 of you on this webinar. And so, yeah, let's talk. Clay says we don't know our own superpower because you're learning from people who are making it look so effortless. I agree with that. It's like the whole, I call it survivor bias. Like, it's easier for me to tell you how to do these things because my business succeeded for a long time. But that's why I always go back to my struggling point, because I don't forget that at all. I remember my struggles clearly because I put myself into that position when I talk about these courses, because I completely get it. Is that there's been 3 pivotal points in my life where I had no idea what I was doing. In my 20s, and it's happened in my 30s too, where I was like, man, what am I doing with my life? and yeah, and so you need to that's a common thing, and I've had it. What I can do, what my superpower probably is that I will keep on trying until I figure it out. I don't give up. That's my superpower. It's actually not running an agency. It's not running a business. None of this stuff came intuitive to me. I had to learn it all. I had to learn it all the hard way. My thing is that I don't give up. And I think that's something you can't teach, but I think people can learn it. They can become more perseverant. They can do it. And I think it comes with being around successful people. You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Well, if you sign up for the course and you join the Tiago Jeff package, we're gonna be 2 of the 5 people you spend the most time with, whether you like it or not. That's the point, right? So
we should release a little bedtime audio recording. You can just talk into your ear as you fall asleep.
Yes. Yeah. Like Brave New World, but it's all about your business and being organized.
Yeah, there's something I was going to say there about the superpower. It's so true. This is why you got to develop your business with other people. Is the thing you think is easy, effortless, fun. No one would ever pay me to do this because it's just so fun. I was talking to someone recently who does genealogy research. I did not know you could be this passionate about genealogy research. She takes trips to like Utah and New York City and goes through these like dusty archives, and she has, subscriptions to Ancestry.com. She's tried all the DNA services. Like, the amount of time and effort she's put into genealogy research is immense. And it's such an insanely valuable service. Like, she does this for free. She does this, she goes to families and she'll spend days researching the past and be like, an ancestor in 645 that was like the Archbishop of whatever. Or like, your DNA actually comes from the Slavic Highlands, and this was your path. Like, think of these stories, people are just like, oh my God, like, I'm part of this like epic story over the generations. And then I go, oh, you should make a business around that, like maybe not do it for free, like charge. She's like, no, this is so fun. No one would ever pay me to do this. And I'm like, trust me, that's not fun.
Yep. Exactly. All right, everybody. How are we doing?
Yeah, we actually.
Oh, good.
We actually sat down and we made a little 1-page PDF. I sat down with her and just said, "Okay, tell me what you do." And I made a PDF, and then I turned the computer and showed her, like, "Here's your first sales material." And she was like, she just couldn't believe it. Like, I just reflected back what she was telling me. Tell the story of your family's journey through history, whatever. And she just looked at it. She was like, oh my God, like that's what I do.
Yeah. Clay had a good comment that the reason why actors need agents is because they do it for the love, but then you need a hard-nosed agent to negotiate with you. And this is a question that comes up a lot for agency course students: is what should you specialize in, and do you need to bring on a business partner? Do you need to bring on somebody who helps you with certain aspects? And what I would say is that it can be very beneficial to bring on a business partner that has a complementary skill to what you have. And if you don't want to negotiate, then yes, that's one of the best ways to get what you need, is to have somebody negotiate for you to understand what you're worth. And that money can be money well spent, or basically it's a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. So an actor plus an agent equals 3 times as much money as an actor could make on their own, or maybe 300 times as much money. And that can be the same with a business partner. That can be the same with a salesperson. Basically, that's the difference between just having just a one-person business in the long run versus building a bigger business, is that you realize that the power of more than one person and more than one set of thoughts can really propel you. And so I do like that thought. Clay, we should get you on the webinar maybe next time. I don't know if I have the technology to get you on there, but you're contributing for sure. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? The questions have seemed to dry up a little bit, but you guys are still pretty engaged. We still have 29 of you on the webinar. And we've gone for 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 17 minutes. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that we are ready to go. I think we're good now. So thanks everybody for joining us today. There will be a replay that's going to be sent out. That's going to be sent out in a couple hours here. And then we will be sending you emails detailing the offers that we had on this webinar and some more details. And so you'll get an email from both of us tomorrow, most likely. And we look forward to having as many as you join the program as possible, because we'd love to have you learn how to become a better business owner and also to build a second brain as well.
Awesome. Thank you much. Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you everyone for coming. This was a really cool experience. And I'm excited to kick off this new partnership.
Excellent. Thanks, Tiago. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.